वर्षो वर्षो निर्विमाणः निर्विमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तदेव शुक्रदब्रह्मा तदब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्वैता 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 एतद्वैता
So, today's topic is the future of accounting and finance in digital economy. As we all know, that digital revolution is fourth revolution. We all agree. It is changing all the aspects of the economy, how the world works, how we work, how we behave. So everything has a immense impact on everything in our life, the digital thing. So let us understand how the accounting is evolving, how the finance professional is evolving in this digital economy, what type of skills that we will require, how to get and how to have those type of skills set, and what is the future. So I'm sure we have the best person to explain, that is Fadi Ganni. I'm sure we will have a great insight after today's session. What kind of skills it is there, how digital economy is going to affect finance and accounting profession. So this is I'm thankful to that we are sharing with Murtuza Kashman because of some other things that are going on. So thank you WRC for having some session. And now I request my colleague council, young and dynamic council colleague CS Saurabh Almera to kindly give the introduction of our today's speaker. Saurabh, over to you.
Thank you, Gautam. It's indeed a proud privilege to introduce such a great personality for speaker of the session, Fadi Ganni. Fadi Ganni is the founder and CEO of Morgan International. Fadi Ganni is the founder with over 27 years experience in the professional education industry. Ganni managed Morgan International global operation in the Middle East, Canada, Europe, and India. Ganni Ganni was a pioneer in the bringing professional education to the Middle East and has formed strategic alliance with leading international course provider to bring the best in professional certification review courses. Having earned his certified public accountant credential, Ganni has taught courses for the CPA programs as well as delivered technical workshop to businesses, universities, and government entities for the past 20 plus year experience. Ganni regularly participates in conferences across the globe as a speaker, sharing his expertise and insight on the industry. So, with that, I would like to welcome Mr. Fadi Ganni over here, and I appreciate my council colleague, Sri Gautam Lad, to arranging such a wonderful session for all our members. Really, with a big round of applause, we have to welcome both of them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Saurabh.
Thank you.
Now it is time to hear from the speaker of the session, Mr. Fadi. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much. All right, let me just set this up. So today we're just gonna talk about the accounting profession actually, but we're gonna take it from a different perspective. We're gonna see how the changes around the world is impacting our profession and what are the skills needed to be able to adapt in the future digital economy. So we know, I'm sure most of you here are accountants, and we know the accounting profession is a very conservative. We don't like changes. We're very traditional. We're very conservative. Unfortunately, this will not be the case anymore. And I will give examples what's going on from the US, from both sides, the certification side and from the businesses, on how things are moving. So the presentation, I'm gonna keep it for around 1 hour and 20 minutes. And after that, what I will do is I will leave a question answer period if you have questions, anything. So we'll make it a bit of interactive. So currently, just to give you a bit historically, the accounting profession as we see it now, or the world, we're going through the fourth industrial revolution. So if I go back a bit in history, so in the 1780s, we had the shift, we called it the Industrial Revolution, where we went into the mechanical systems. There was a huge shift into mechanics. In the 1890s, we witnessed the second Industrial Revolution, which is where we started with the electricity and the communication. We had starting technology in that space. And in the third revolution in the 1950s, we started talking about the computers and talking about the mainframes and the computing power, where we started witnessing computers. And currently we are facing what we call the fourth industrial revolution, which is really a shift to the cyber physical society. So what I mean by cyber physical society is not only about technology anymore, it's the interaction between humans and the computers. So it's not anymore just using the computer, how we can interact and how the computers interacts with the humans. This is where we are as I speak. We are in the middle of it, and the acceleration is going to be on a very fast pace. So when I talk about the fourth industrial revolution, in the US, we refer to it as the 4IR. So if I want to define it very clearly, it is mainly what we mean by that is that computers are interacting with humans and other computers. So when we talk about the workforce now, we talk about humans and we talk about computers. And there's a common word that people use now, hire a computer. In the US, many times I'll be sitting in meetings, and for certain functions and this, instead of saying, why don't we automate this, say, let's hire a computer to do that. So that's the interacting between humans and computers. We're talking about a massive amount of data being generated, shared and stored. And we're talking about smart technology and computers. They're going to be prevailing in every function and in every industry. And specifically in accounting and finance, it's going to play a big role. And we look at quick adaptation of technologies, and they're moving at a very fast pace. And the shift, like I've mentioned at the beginning, is towards the cyber physical systems. So when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, we're talking about the big data, we're talking about interaction between humans and computers. We're talking about the fast adoption, and that will all end up in something we call cyber physical systems. So this is where we are, and this is where we're going to be moving to. So what are the areas when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution that are influencing all of this? Mainly, we're talking about robotics and process automation, as we know, and India in particular is very advanced when it comes to this. A lot of process automation. There are multinational companies now subcontracting to major corporates in India to do that part. We're talking what is influencing as well is the artificial intelligence. We're talking about the Internet of Things. And recently, and it's all over the news, we're talking about the blockchain. And when I talk about blockchain, now blockchain is being used in the cryptocurrency. But having said that, that technology will be heavily used by accounting and finance professionals because it's secure. This is how it's going to be going. When we talk about AI and Internet of Things, I'll give you examples of things that are happening currently. But these are the major areas where that are impacting the fourth industrial revolution. Now, of course, there are benefits to all of this. Some people don't like it. It depends how you use it. there are benefits, and if we know how to ride the wave and we use that what we have in a proper way. If you don't use it in a proper way, you're going to be at a disadvantage. So the benefits, mainly they're cost saving over time. So we're saying engaging highly efficient systems, smart systems that will save us time and effort. We're talking about data accuracy. There's no human for errors. So the potential mistakes and everything will be reduced. And we're talking of enhanced integration of systems. So our e-commerce will talk with our accounting, and our accounting software will talk with the sales software. So the accounting software can project what is the potential revenue in a much higher, I would say, accuracy than a human being sitting with the commercial people and saying, what's your budget and what do you project? The systems will do it more accurately because they have data and they can analyze that data in a much faster and more accurate way. Definitely, we're talking about security of data. If it's used properly, it enhances the data security. Assuming, again, it's very important, assuming the systems are properly secured. If the systems are not properly secured, then that's a high risk area. So the shift will happen. The benefit is that human beings will be shifted from activities that produce high value added work rather non-value added work. So anything administration, processes, these are back office, not of a high value added. By having those systems into place, humans will bring in more high value added work to the workplace. It will definitely be used in recruitment strategies for organizations, specifically in accounting and finance. And all of this is where the company of the future. I'm just telling you overall what are the benefits of this fourth industrial revolution. Of course, it comes with a lot of challenges, specifically in the accounting and finance area, where I will be zooming into it. So still, computers are taking the low skill jobs. It cannot still think like a human being. We're getting there. We're putting artificial intelligence, but developing a strategy it still requires a human being. So they're not at that level. Definitely, it's a high capital needed to invest in new technology if you want to do it properly. And like I've mentioned, there are data privacy concerns. And when I talk about data privacy, I talk about cybersecurity, I talk about data mining, and I talk about government-sponsored spying. So the corporate world, when you talk to them about technology, they're worried about the cybersecurity, but they're worried about governments using this as a tool to spy on corporates and people. So these are the challenges that corporates have to still think of. And if we look at the digital economy today, it's largely compromised. Where is it divided? I would say around 30% is going into support services, around 25% in telecommunication and software, 20%, e-commerce, digital media, 10%, and hardware is around 10%. In our profession as accounting and finance, we fall between the support services, the e-commerce, and the software. So a big chunk of what we do, we're gonna capture a big chunk of that digital economy, people, accountants, and people working in the finance area. Again, I'm just giving you an overview before I zoom into the accounting and finance. The finance, usually, when we talk about accounting and finance, our job as an accountant will change. So, for example, auditors, Indian chartered accountants, your job when you go external auditing is to ensure compliance and ensure that financial statements are free from errors and represent the true operation of the organization. We have to think in the digital age differently. The finance and accounting, we're going to be looking at how the monies are required, how are they acquired, how do you use the money, how we manage the money, how we invest it, and how we report it. So the role is shifting from being as a compliance agent. I'm talking about auditors here. I'm not talking about cost management. So rather than reporting, external reporting, auditing, compliance, we're moving in that digital age into more of advisory services. And I'll give you an examples. Though the technologies are there, the main function and focus of the finance people are accounting. When we look at the future and how we use this is three areas, mainly blockchain for security, where we have distributed ledgers with no one access to the full ledgers. We're talking about artificial intelligence. What we talk about artificial intelligence, how we use those softwares in order to produce data that is meaningful for people, and Internet of Things. When I talk about Internet of Things, I'm saying how we link those softwares all together with other computers. So my accounting software will be linked to the e-commerce, will be linked to my Salesforce software. So any sales that happens, whether in e-commerce or a person issued an invoice, it's all integrated and it's all talking with each other. So we have timely information on the spot. We don't wait anymore until the invoice goes to the accounting department and the accounting department do manually the debit and credit. All of this is going, it's all gonna be streamlined and it's gonna be automated. Cybersecurity for finance people is a very critical element in the digital economy today. It's really a main concern. And just to give you some statistics, the FBI, and then this is in the year between 2015 and 2019, reported around $2.2 billion losses because of cyber security. And I'm talking here regarding finance, not any other type of cybersecurity. Business emails compromised in 2019, around 23,000, 2 million cases of fraud in 2019. The FBI receives on a daily basis 1,200 complaints because of cybersecurity issues. The US, of course, tops this, followed by the UK. And in the US, the highest ranking is in the state of California. That's where most of the IT companies are, just so you understand. So there's a reason why of it. Just to give you how the cybersecurity has a big influence in the finance. And another research done in 2020, where 250 CFOs in particular, asking them what are the interesting trends. So just the numbers, 72% are stating that their organization still spends, with everything, the technology, more than 500 hours per year on manual cash disbursement and related manual tasks such as accounts payable. 75% reported that they were able to make a lot of changes within the functions of finance and able to complete the tasks on timely manner while working remotely during the COVID. We all know that happened very quickly. But the last three are what are interesting. 95%, they are anxious on how to automate the accounting and finance processes, and 57% reporting that the team members are very concerned. So it's not only the CFOs they want to automate, that the actual team members, they have a concern that their job might be automated and they lose their job, which is not the reality, because the skills requirement of those people will change and their job role will change. But there is a fear from that. And a lot of the CFOs, they say 70%, they are very worried about failing to modernize. If they're not able to cope up, there's a risk of unable to meet the demands and expectation. And this is where the companies will be at a disadvantage. And 62% they said they want to refocus their employees' efforts from manual tasks to higher valued added work. So even the finance departments now, the CFOs and the VPs of finance, most of their time now, apart from external reporting or internal reporting, whatever the case is, their concerns is that how can we automate, how can we refocus our staff, and how we can make sure we don't miss the boat. That's from the internal accounting within the companies. If we look at the auditing firms, you see a major shift. Specifically, I'm talking to the big four, if not the big 10. Yes, they're still doing the audit, but their main revenue stream is not from audit anymore. A lot of those giant public accounting firms, what I'm referring to is the PwCs, the KPMG, the Deloitte, they're trying to move from the typical auditing into more advisory services and specifically roles related to IT and digitizing the finance and the accounting functions. We saw a major revenue shift towards those services as well, because this is where the future is going to be. So the audit in itself, as an auditor, external auditor, what we do is going to be changing definitely, because those samples we used to take and then assess the materiality level and the risks and everything and come up with an audit plan, that's all can be now automated. You just feed the information to a software. It gives you where the high risk area, what are the sampling and everything. So more and more, we're going to be doing more of higher value added services to the client, more of an advisory services in addition to what we do. So again, this is a graph of what I've just spoke about. So you see the biggest chunk is the anxiety related to automation. This is where the finance, the CFOs and the finance people are very anxious. How are we going to do all of this? Then the second would be the change of work, how it's going to impact. We're going to be working remotely. A lot of finance will be distributed around the world with globalization, and how to refocus the team members in the finance area. So this is where a summary of the takeouts of what the CFOs are thinking and the trends they're thinking about. Additional top concerns of finance leaders when you talk to them is big data analytics. We have a lot of data. How we can make use of that data. How are we going to control the financial transactions, especially in a global economy with e-commerce, that is sales. How are we going to control that, and how are we going to ensure transactions are properly reported, they are secure? They think about the other concerns are the automation, fintech, how we can use fintech and introduce it within the finance. They're talking about the distributed ledgers and, of course, the AI. So these are the main concerns of finance leaders. And the future trends and impacts, if we look at the current challenges of finance people, I want to summarize them into 9, and I'll go into 11 actually. So I want to address each one very briefly, how the economic growth is impacting the finance, globalization. All those factors are impacting the accounting and finance. When we see it on a very high level, economic growth, what does it mean to accounting and finance people? Globalization, what does it mean to us? The changes in regulatory environment, how will we deal with it in the finance and accounting? Talent shortages, shift to remote work, evolving technology, legislative environment, cost pressures. Now, we all know about the cost pressures that every organization is facing, and the changes of the accounting and finance profession, and from where we're going to get those highly skilled people that can adapt to this. Unfortunately, people who are certified, and I'm not talking about the chartered accountants of India, I'm talking globally. If we look at the UK, the ACCA, if we look at the US CPA, even the certification and the examinations are facing a lot of issues, because they're witnessing less and less demand for their certification. The new generation, they think those, what we are taught and those exams are not relevant to our current economy. There's really thought about that. And I can tell you, like in the year 2024, the US examination CPA, it's going the biggest ever evolution in its history. Is completely changing. And that's because of those factors. So the exam in the US is 4 parts, it's becoming 6 parts with focus not only on auditing, with focus on data analytics, business reporting. So they're doing a major shift because they realized if they don't adapt to the future trends and impacts, they're not gonna be the members, and whatever they're producing as certified accountants will not be able to do their jobs properly. So let me go one by one very briefly. So definitely the economy is going to continue to grow. We're going through now hyperinflation, but specifically, if I want to talk about the growth globally, specifically, we're talking India, China, Asia, those countries, including the US. So with the growth in the economy, it means there's going to be more demand for accounting and finance services will grow. Specifically, those companies who are multinationals, so they will require more and more accounting and auditing services. So for our profession as accountants, it is a healthy trend. Unlike other professions, there's going to still be demand. Our profession is not dying. It's changing, and there's going to be more and more demand for additional services. That's the good thing. When we talk about globalization, this is going to be a challenge for accountants because there's going to be more demand for accounting services related to international financial accounting, international tax laws, and the mergers and the acquisitions. So as an accountant now, we're going to have to be dealing with different tax jurisdictions, different reporting standards. It could be US GAAP, it could be international financial reporting standards, it could be British. So there's going to be more requirements, and it's going to be more complex. So there's going to be more demand, but there's going to be more complexity on what we do. Regulatory environment. Again, there's more with the growth, working in different environments. With the technology coupled, there's going to be increasing complexities in operations, which will end results more complexities in the regulation environment, which the government so far, they're not able to control. They don't know what to do with it. And specifically, it's going to hit the financial reporting and tax regulations. How are we going to be dealing with all of that as accounting and finance? So this is going to impact our profession as well. Now, the COVID, we've all seen it. I don't want to talk about it, but the only thing I can say is that it accelerated the efforts and the changes. During the COVID, only 14% of the companies, specifically in the finance and accounting, they felt they were ready to be able to have their team members to work remotely. I'm specifically talking in the accounting and finance. However, this trend started, and it's going to continue. And there's going to be shifting and changes to remote work. So it's going to be part of the future for financial professionals. So how would we able to work with that? So we're talking about cloud computing and virtual collaboration. So that's something. The finance is not anymore in a back office, in a restricted area, in a closed area within the company. You need the security to go in, and you have the finance and accounting and the internal audit. It's going to be worked virtually, so the security is going to change to the cloud, and they're going to implement certain securities when in the communication. So that's, again, something that's impacting the profession. The job prospects, what I've said is, there's going to be more demand for accountants, but it's going to change between industries, and it's going to change on what is the skills required for those. So the employment is going to increase. The requirements is going to be different. a typical chartered accountant from India or the UK or a CPA who comes in with specific only accounting skills will probably not easily find a job. So there's more skills required now from our side. So the growth is going to continue for all sectors. What I mean by that, auditor, external auditors, management accountants, governmental accounting, external auditors, information technology auditor, and internal auditor. They see that most of the growth, if you look at it, is in information technology auditor. So really now the audit, again, we're going to still be auditing companies, but most of our time will be spent on auditing the processes and the technology to make sure they are adequate and there are internal controls and segregation and authorization to use, who can access the system, which level. So that part is going to definitely increase when it comes to the audit profession. I'm talking information technology auditor here. With all those changes, there's going to be requirements, more training and investment. So corporates now have to invest on hand-on learning experiences, which is a university, typical university graduate in accounting and finance, and then going into the audit is not sufficient. The companies now, with the changes, require additional training and advancement, and it requires as well more upskilling skills, I would say, based on the industry the accountant is working on. So there's going to be more and more demand for that. And when I talk about training and advancement, so I'm listing here designations that we all know of: the CMA, the CIA, the CISA, Certified Information System Auditor. We know personal financial specialist credential. We know accredited business valuation, certified financial forensic, certified information technology professional. These are all available, and there's going to be a lot more. So you can see now the scope of the accounting. This is all related to finance and accounting. So within that scope, there's going to be more specialization. And we've seen it as a start with the digital marketing. We used to do the traditional digital marketing, and then the traditional marketing, we shifted to digital marketing. Now, if you get into that world of the digital marketing, you find specialization. Though you're in digital marketing, you have somebody specialized in SEO. You have somebody specialized in customer user experience website. You have somebody specialized in Google Analytics. You have somebody specialized in creating journeys and lead nurturing journeys. Same thing we're going to find in the accounting and finance. So the profession is going to be more dissected, and there's going to be more and more specialization. It's not anymore the accountant will be doing the data analytics, the reporting, the key finding, the auditing, the compliance. It's going to be more dissected now. So continuing with the training and advancement. So basically the areas where the corporates will be focusing on is strong analytical and critical thinking, communication. We're talking attention to details, with complexities of the transaction. We're talking about quantitative skills requirements. It's not anymore only financial data. We need to go quantitative to analyze, compare, facilitate, and report, or overall strong organizational skills. Because as a finance person now, I have to be dealing with stakeholders. I have to be dealing with finance people. I have to be dealing with non-finance people. I have to be dealing with clients. I have to be dealing with IT. I have to have a stronger organizational skills because I'm going to be dealing with different multiple issues. And with all of that, there's going to be talent shortages. So there's going to be more demand for accountants and finance people with a different set of skills, and there's going to be shortage. So anybody now thinking of moving into that profession is a good thing. Why? One is that a lot of accountants are in the retirement age. Then we have the technology fulfilling specific parts. And then we have the professional, I would say, pipeline, people, chartered accountants. So they require different skills. And like I mentioned, those certified people, they're becoming more scarce and scarce. At least I know in the US, there's an issue within the universities, less accounting graduates, major in accounting. So universities are not producing the same number of accounting graduates as they used to. We know the exams, people sitting for those exams, we see a drop in them as well. I'm talking here the US. And the reasons are basically three. A lot of the new generation, they say, I can be successful without being a chartered accountant. I don't have to sit for exams because the skills level requirement is not only accounting and I have the other skills. A lot of people look at those exams as too time consuming and expensive. The amount of effort and time and cost I'm going to put versus the return, it's not worth it. And a lot of the most critical part that people say is that CA or CPA or whatever it is, it lacks relevance. Those exams are not evolving at a very fast pace as the corporate world is moving, and it doesn't add any value to our career. So these are main reasons: less certified people, and there's going to be shortages. So, and 43% of CEOs, CFOs during surveys have reported that they have shortages and they're not able to find the right talent within their organization. So there's a gap between what you are taught at the university, what is the educational system and those exams, and what the corporate required. There's a big gap, and they are not all streamed. We know that universities are very typical, traditional. To do any changes within the universities, it requires accreditation and approval. It's very bureaucratic to maintain their accreditation. We know those exams are very bureaucratic, but the corporates is moving at a fast pace. So what we are producing today as an accountants, the typical skills that they have does not meet the requirements of the work. Now, the other challenge, which is the remote work, I spoke about it, is just like, how are we gonna now onboard our clients? It's gonna be virtual onboarding. How are we gonna create that relationship with our client? And how are we gonna find new clients? In the US now, you can onboard a new client if you're in audit and create that relationship with the CFO and get the assignment all virtually. How are we gonna manage all of that? Definitely, we're talking about the cloud-based accounting. So because people are going to work remotely, softwares, audit softwares, they all have to be cloud-based with security. And how are we going to create that relationship, not only in terms of computing power, in terms of virtual communication and collaboration. So the client, how are they going to update the supporting documentation? Are they going to upload it on the cloud? And we look at it, how we can verify those documents are original. So it's a very complex situation we're in. And how are you going to manage your team, your audit team? Somebody is working on that client. Somebody might be sitting in Bangalore working for a client in Mumbai, and the other team member is sitting maybe in Delhi. So how are they going to collaborate on that assignment for that particular client? And how are we going to share the documentation? And how is all going to be managed? So that's going to be something of a challenge, but that's the only way to move forward. So I've spoken about technology, but if I want to relate it exactly towards finance and accounting, so there's going to be new innovative ways of auditing and new innovative ways of looking at the accounting profession that enhances efficiencies. We need to be very careful about the cyber crime. As accountants, we're going to be learning about it and understand it, because when we audit now, and we look at the assessments, cybercrime falls now under finance and accounting, specifically when it comes to protecting the company's assets. Some organizations are slow to adopt. I don't think India will face that, but I know that European, they're very traditional. US, they're fast to adopt. Some organizations, they feel if we're doing it and it's working, why should we change? They have that mindset. And now the government regulations and adopting all of this, how it's going to map with the government, where in some countries, they ask you that you need to have physical files for the last 3 years or 7 years stored in case you're being audited. You need to have those files physically. So with all those changes, how are we going to be doing all of this? So usually in the accounting, like I mentioned, we're very conservative, but only those who are willing to accept and adopt will continue to seek growth and find jobs. Those accountants that will not adapt and accept very quickly, they're going to be facing some issues. So if we look at the category, we have the early starters, we have the early adopters, we have the early majority, the late majority, and the laggers. In order for us, the accountants, we have to be in the early majority. We cannot be the laggers because it simply will not work. And we cannot be at the late majority. So the accounting profession has to be between the early adopters and the early majority. And that's why we're seeing now that everybody's talking about fintech. We're talking about the cryptocurrency and digital economy, all of this, the fiat money, all of this, and the regulation. So we are forced to be in the early adopters or early majority stage. So big data as well, this is something we'll be dealing with as a finance leaders. We're gonna have to leverage that. So how are we gonna look at that data, filter it, align it, integrate it, ensure it's on time, it's correct? What solutions we're gonna add as an artificial intelligence to crunch those numbers and come up with, and I'm talking millions of data now, and get up with a conclusion in a very short period of time. And if there are gaps, how are we going to fill those gaps? And you will see one of the trends is that finance people and IT, they're going to be working very closely together. We used to think of, we have the IT department and the technology department, and we have the finance department. A lot of companies now in the US, they're merging those two departments together. It's very critical because so you find now a CFO oversees the finance, operation, accounting, finance, treasury, and IT. The more and more integration between IT and finance people is happening. So now finance people have to have a better understanding of the latest. They're not being asked to be a programmers or accountant, but they have to have quite knowledgeable about the technology and the trends and what's going on. The distributed ledger, this is no question mark about it. So the new softwares, finance and accounting softwares, we're going to be using the blockchain. It's already in process. It's secure, it's stable, it's private. Nobody can control the information. It's a distributed ledgers across servers globally. And the blockchain, it would be I would say the standard for all finance and accounting technology softwares. And probably if governments adopt and central banks will adopt digital currency, this will be in alignment as well. It is private, it is secure. So that's something typical. If you're an accountant or finance, you need to understand what is a blockchain and how does it work. It's very important you have full understanding of that. Some of the financial transactions, we see them as well. They're going to be automated. So when I say automated, most of the financial transactions now are automated, but I'm saying artificial intelligence automated. What I mean by that, you don't need anymore to really do that transaction yourself. In the future, for example, trades on capital market can be sold or bought, or the transaction happening without giving any instructions, or a payment to a supplier happening without you saying, okay, let's pay that supplier. The systems with the AI, they will look at your receivables and payables. It would adjust what's your cash flow situation, how many days receivables payables outstanding, and the system by itself will generate the payment. It's very smart system. The accountants or the finance people do not have to give the authority to do that. Touchless, we've seen it now, credit cards and other forms of payments, and the self-service, which is going to impact as well the banking transaction. What I mean by that is that, for example, budgets, if you have to inquire about a budget, or you want to look at the cost of something, how much is it going to cost you that, you don't need to go to the accountant. The data should be ready on the smart systems, AI enabled, that will give you all those transaction information on the spot. So really, things will be looked at from a different aspects. Even the technology on this, we see trends is that the microloans, I don't know if you've heard about them. So some corporates, they have to do an audit report in case they want to take a loan from the bank. So, you know, the bank requires your financial statements for the last 3 years. What is your current audit report? And based on their credit history, they produce loans. All of this is going to be gone. We're going to be starting talking about microloans, where instead of taking a loan, a business requires $1 million as a loan from a specific bank, they're going to take in an automated fashion microloans of $20 per loan, and they take 1,000 loans from different platform, different bank globally. They will lend you 20, and then you get the financing that you require. So even those things are going to change for how we gather financing and how we raise money. And again, currently our brains are wired. We report now the economic activity in a currency. It could be Indian rupees, it could be US dollars, but with the future, with the digital currency and the barter and the fiat money, we might be starting reporting not on a specific currency, but based on specific economic activity, because the money that we receive, it could be not money, it could be a service we receive, a barter, or we can be receiving a digital currency. So we have to start thinking of, one of the trends is that, do we report now our results or year end based on economic activity or based on a currency? And if it's economic activity, how are we going to measure it? Which is the currency, and how are we going to translate it? How people can understand it? All of this is being challenged as we speak. For accounting and finance, just to tell you a few more things, is that finance executive leaders, 84% now of CFOs, they believe that AI has to integrate within their systems if they want to continue the growth. 75%, they say if we don't scale AI, the business will die within 5 years. And 76% of CFOs are asking them, how can we scale that? So it includes everything I spoke about with how we report, how we use digital currency, how we put the cloud computing, how we automate the payments, how we introduce AI into this. This is taking the majority of the time, at least for finance and accounting leaders in the largest corporates in the US. All of this is going to come with the economic and regulatory changes. This is going to be very tough. How we going to regulations, how it's going to impact us, which jurisdiction we follow. Are there enough regulations now to cover all this digital economy? No. 70% of I would say it's a new 70% of currently what's happening would be new to the regulation. There's a lot of things now the law does not cover when we talk about the digital world. It doesn't. Who's accountable? Who's liable? Who's right? Who's wrong? Can you blame a computer if it does an error? If a system, there's a glitch, who is accountable? Is it the accountant, the finance person, the CFO, the company? Is it the company that produced, that manufactured that software? Who is accountable for that? There's a lot of question marks on that. One. Second thing is that when we talk about economy, those who are leaders in the technology, digital age, are controlling the world. That's another problem that we see, is that if you look at it, 100% of the 457 companies that had public information and part of the 500 are audited by the Big Four. So the majority of the wealth now are controlled by small number of companies, and those small companies are being focused and audited by the Big Four. So this imposes huge risks now on the economy overall. So imagine Big Four control the number 500 Fortune clients in the year 2020. That's something gonna change because regulation will not allow it. Governments are looking at it. It's becoming a dependency. So there's a question mark about how do you accept the clients as well and the changes from that perspective. And the other part of when we talk about the regulation, we talk about tax functions, tax and regulation challenges. So the requirement is now greater and different enforcement. We're talking about technology-based enforcement, increased task workload and its risk. So we're going to have more exposure to taxes, risk taxes when you are operating globally. With that as well, governments now are having less and less limited budgets. They're not as rich as they used to be. So what's going to happen is that they want to collect money more. So they're going to increase the pressure on tax regulation and add more taxes for governments to generate more revenue. And that's specifically after the COVID. We've seen it. We've seen it in the Middle East. For those of you, Saudi Arabia and Dubai, starting next year, they're gonna be imposing taxes for corporates. They started with the VAT, sales taxes. Now they moved in taxes on income, not individuals, corporates. Soon they're gonna be on income. We've seen it. Governments want more money. I know governments like Canada, where if you're non-resident, you are allowed, if you declare non-residency, you are allowed not to pay taxes as a Canadian. But now there are talks that irrespective, well, as long as you are a Canadian, that law of being non-resident and not paying taxes is going to go away, and you're going to have to pay taxes on your worldwide income. So there's a pressure from everywhere now. Governments, they want more money. And of course, there were going to be requirements for more transparency. So again, all of this is opening doors for us as accountants and auditors. And the cost pressures across the board. Companies want to reduce on their taxes across the board and the cost structure. And a lot of the companies think they don't have efficient tax systems, sufficient tax resources and systems to really make best use of that, especially those who are working globally. It becomes a very complex. So they are expecting us to do more, and at the same time, they're going to have to invest. It's going to cost more because they need to recruiting efforts, training, support, rising costs. All of this is going to impact the profession as well. And specifically now the healthcare, which had put a lot of strain on governments now, it's all going to be rethought. Now, when it comes to accounting here, so again, we spoke about the trends and the accounting are related to it, but the advancement of technology, we spoke about it. So we're shifting from compliance to advisory services. So as a typical accountant or big four or auditor, you're not going to be only doing the compliance, you're going to be moving into advisory services. So you're really going to be the business partner of the organization. So this requires different set of skills to address your client needs. So that's definitely happening. Compliance will be automated. You can rest assured all compliance can be automated, or it could be outsourced. So it's not that typical auditor now has to do the compliance. There could be a compliance department, or there be new companies coming out. Their role is to do compliance. You as a finance accounting professional, you're more focused now on advisory services and focusing on the high value added work that I spoke about it. So that requires different set of skills. And the terminology, when we talk about accounting, now everybody speaks about analytical skills or data analytics or big data. So a lot of accountants, they're gonna be statisticians or financial analysts, operation research analysts, information security analysts, big data analysts, market research analysts. All this is falling under accounting and finance. We never used to hear the word big data analytics. We heard it as a role, but we never thought of it as an accounting function or part of specialization within the accounting, or market research analyst or statistician. So things are changes. So what are the strategies? Companies on a whole, finance departments, they have to look at their state, where they are, and they plan accordingly with all what I've spoken about. They have to think lean and they have to invest. They really have to invest in the systems. Otherwise, they will not be able to provide the service level. Even on an individual basis, you have to invest in your skills if you want to be a good accountant. Companies have to look at innovative ways now to attract talents and then acquisition talents, because people are, if you advertise for a typical job in accountant that you're going to be doing the debit and the credit, you'll find less and less people will apply for that job. So they have to think the roles and the jobs and how to use that talent. They have to rethink all their compensation plan in the finance and accounting. They need to expand the services level, the finance department, and how you define client. Who's your client? Is it the software? Is it the end user? Is it the corporate? So it's really all mixed up now, and you really need to leverage the technology. So the skills now, accounting, what they're looking for is complex problem solving. I know the big four in the US now. I'll give you an example. One of the firms, I'm not going to mention the name, they've approached us, Becker, and they said, we want to hire junior auditors, but we don't want them an accounting major. We don't want them to know anything about accounting. We want them to be engineers. We want to hire junior auditors, but their background should be engineers. When we asked them why you want engineers, not accounting major, they said because they have a different way of thinking, analyzing, and looking at numbers than an accountant. Accounting skills, we can teach them. It's not a problem. We have our own set of skills that we can give them the accounting that they need to do, and we're automated. We need somebody who thinks different than a typical accountant. They have different set of skills, and we want to hire them. This is happening now. Other firms are saying, we don't care about your university degree. Whether you're majoring in accounting or finance or agriculture or medical, we don't care. You come to us, and I'm talking accounting and finance, we have set of skills we're going to test you on. If you pass those set of skills, you are fit to work in the accounting and finance department, and we're going to train you. So as you see, it's already started. So they're talking about critical thinking. They want people in the finance and accounting to be creative, to look at things and come up with innovative solutions. People management, because now you're not only dealing with the taxes or data, you're dealing with different stakeholders. You should be able to work with IT, you should be able to work with the client, you should be able to work with the government. So you have to have the people management. emotional intelligence, where being able to relate to others, you have to have proper judgment and decision making. Your service now is not a compliance. You're providing advisory services. So they're looking at somebody who is service oriented than a compliance. That typical accountant that comes in to audit and everybody has to produce that reports, it doesn't work anymore. You have to go in as a service provider. You have to have good negotiations now, skills, because with the cost pressures and dealing with different roles and entities within the organization and being on the advisory and management level, you have to be able to negotiate and you have to have cognitive flexibility. What I mean by that, you cannot stick, we used to do it that way, why are we changing? You should be able on the go, be able to change and change processes on the go as you move forward. Example would be approvals. I remember on my days when I was as a consultant, whenever I used to travel, I had to produce my travel expense report, and I had to stick all the invoices and have something and then ship it to the company. Now it's all online. I will upload the invoices. Now it's even, they don't ask about the invoices anymore, and because there's no physical invoices. Sometimes in the US, you don't have a physical invoice. They say we'll send it by email or in a digital. So things are changing, and as a finance department, you should accept all those changes and adapt. So again, the history teaches us how we used to commute on a horse. We used to car, telephone. Now hardly anybody uses the landline. Even corporates now, it's all voice over IP. We were used to look at the computer. Now we're talking about virtual reality and augmented reality, and we're talking about a different world. So the CFO, if we look at the role of the CFO of the past, really their job was to protect the company assets. They used to have an oversight over the accounting and insight. If there's any risk, they will give it. And really their job was reporting, standards, and compliance. This is the role of a CFO historically. Protective, report, standards, and compliance. If we look at the role of a CFO today, it should include creative value. You need to create a value. It's not about protective, it's about value creation. It's insight and foresight. Instead of an oversight, now it's an insight. How can you help us? And it is really a business partner. So it includes about strategy, IT, operation, data analytics. This is really the role of a CFO. So it's not the typical finance person. This is how what you need to become a CFO. You have to have, the role is looked at differently. The definition of it has changed. So the skills really, you really have to have data analysis, very good communication. I thought we spoke about it. Information now is a noise. If you don't know how to communicate it and how you translate those information into action, we're talking about relationship building. You have a broader range of relationship skills from different departments and functional teams within the finance department and outside. How you think creative, you look at risk, analyze the risk, and how you solve complex financial and non-financial problems faster and more cost effectively. We're looking at business acumen, skills requirements, how you contribute to the overall business strategy, and how you understand the business and see the big picture, not only from the finance, but as a whole. You have to be ready to use the technology every year and stay up to date. You have to be flexible and adapt. Accountants are not flexible. This is the way we do it. This is the process. These are the supporting documents. Now we cannot be like that. We have to be more flexible. And again, all the soft skills, leadership, negotiation, predictive analytics, economics, project management, the job we do now on projects, by projects, and persuasive skills. So this is the history from bookkeeper. If I go back 100 years, most of the accountants were bookkeepers. Then we separated bookkeeping from accountants. So we have real accountant and we have a bookkeeper. And then the accountant became an auditor. And the auditor, then we moved into management accounting. So it's not only about auditing, it's producing those, doing projection, cost management. And now in today's world, digital economy, it's a business partner. This is how the accounting evolution is happening. And definitely earning a certification in accounting is a great choice, as long as you really not depend only on the CA or the CPA or the CIMA or the ACA. And if you hold that degree and you don't adapt and move quickly and learn, you're not gonna be able to last for a long time. Within 3 years, you'll be obsolete. So the job now is for those certification bodies or institutes, they have to do their homework, they have to invest, do the research, and adapt their exams and change their exams. That's a must going on. And in the US, it's already started. If I look at the CPA 2023-4, totally new exams, comprise of different things. If you look at the CMA, the whole system has changed. And I believe it will follow in India and it follow in the UK. So the entire certification world is changing. I think this will end my my presentation. I want to leave a room for question answer period. Hello? So I would like to leave a room if there's any questions you have, or you want me to address any specific questions and everything. I'm ready to answer it now. The objective was just to give you just to make you think differently of what's going on. Any questions? Questions?
Fadi, they're typing in the Q&A box.
Okay, Tuba, can you read them for me?
One of the candidate has a question. What is the starting step for CA to enter into this field?
This, I'm not the subject matter on the chartered accountancy in India. I think you need to contact your local chapter or the local CA, but I can tell you it involves training within a licensed firm. At the same time, you need to be preparing for professional exams. How the process happens and what the eligibility requirements, I don't know, but I know that the CA program, it goes through both internship, studying, and after passing those exams and meeting the internship requirements and building that experience, you become a chartered accountant. This you have to contact your local organization. There's a question here saying, will US CPA become more tougher for 2024 than what it is now? The question is, it's not going to be more difficult, it's going to change. So what happens, there's going to be 3-part examination, which are core. I'm talking financial accounting is going to stay the same. The accounting, the regulation, the tax is going to be the same. And the audit is going to be the same. The last part, which we used to call it business and business concepts, that part is going to change, is going to be dissected into 3 different majors. One of it is called the bar. So if you're specialize more in the business analytics and reporting, there's going to be part more focused on the taxes because it's becoming more complex. And there's another part which is related to data analytics and IT. So it's not more difficult, it's a change in the perspective to adapt to the current requirements. There's going to be more specialization.
Whether in USA, have they started taking CPAs as business partners?
Yes, it's already started. When, like I mentioned, when they interview now for a senior accounting, I'm not talking junior positions. When they are when they are now interviewing for a senior position, they don't look at that person. Yes, they're interviewing him for CFO or VP of finance, but the mindset is this person is going to be part of the strategy. And when they are assessing who should they hire, they're looking not only on their financial skills and hardcore skills, they're looking at other skills. Yes, they are looking at that. And at the same time, the exam is changing. So it's all moving in that direction. It is changing.
Someone has a question: is doing cryptocurrency courses at this time beneficial?
No, there's a question mark about, it's not about cryptocurrency, it's about understanding the system and the blockchain technology, more understanding the technology of it, why it's moving in that direction. What do you mean by distributed ledger? What do you mean by the security? Rather than really understanding the Bitcoin and the trading and because it's still not regulated. That's the problem. It's still not regulated. So what's important is to understand the trends and understand what's happening in terms of the technology behind it and why that technology is important and why companies are looking at that technology. It's not by the sense what is cryptocurrency, it is the trend and the technology itself.
Is there any specific reliable website where we can get accounting taxation work?
Where we can get what?
Accounting taxation work.
Well, I'm sure in India there's a lot of courses on taxes. There are millions of online courses around the world. And when you talk about taxes, you have to understand which tax system you're addressing. So if you're living in India, you have to look at local courses. You have to look at different tuition providers when it comes to the local taxes. But don't look at it only from aspect of taxes. You have to look at it from a higher scope than having only the tax skills is not going to get you anywhere in your job. That's one of the skills that you have to have. So if you're only specialized in taxes, you're going to be doing day in and day out the same job. You have to look at it from a bigger picture.
What is the future of CAs who work in SAP, finance, treasury, and IT? Is it better than core finance?
Consulting. No, it's not better, or you cannot compare. It's again, what's the future of CAs who work as SAP finance, treasury consultants and consulting, or as SAP finance, IT, SME, and IT department? It's both. It's not about where you're working, it's about what you do. So it's like I'll compare a doctor, an eye doctor, to a heart surgeon. Which is better? They're both important, but what's you're doing? So it's not about the industry or where you are, it's about what you do and what you're learning and what you are exposed to. So there's not one more important than the other. It's what you do, what skills are you learning, how you're moving, and how you're keeping yourself up to date. So another questions we have here is it beneficial to do blockchain technology courses? I would, people in the finance area, I would recommend that you have a full understanding of the blockchain. I'm not asking you to learn the coding and how to become an IT specialist or coder, but to properly understand the blockchain and how it works. So what's important is, yes, you need to have good understanding of the blockchain technology.
Fadi, couple of people have questions on professional certification courses on big data and artificial intelligence.
There's no yet certification in artificial intelligence. And there are courses and newly established institutes that talk about data analytics, but there's not yet an association similar to the ICAI Institute that is specialized in data analytics. What's happening is that those data analytics is being integrated part of the professional exams. Example, in the US, the US CMA exam tests you on data analytics. The US CPA will be testing you on data analytics. I am sure the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India will be integrating a paper on data analytics and how to look at it. But there's no professional exams. You can get a certificate that you've attended the course and you get a certificate because it's not a license just to practice. It's a skill that you have to have.
What is the future of R2R? Can we get R2R work from outside India?
What do you mean R2R?
Record to report.
Report to report?
Record to report, yeah.
I don't understand. What do you mean by record to report? I don't understand the question.
Can you please elaborate your question? Till then, I'll take the next question. If I were when to start outsourcing practice for accounting work from USA, can you list some websites from where we can source work? Example like Upwork. Does US CPA have a database for some outsourcing work?
I don't have that information. You need to do the research. I'm not familiar with that, but you need to do the research. I cannot answer that question. I don't have the information. There's a question here as a CA. Is it important to have understanding of big data or AI and how it works? Yes. You need to be familiar with all those terms. When we talk about big data, how to use it, how you mine it. I'm not saying to become an expert because you only learn by practice, but saying your skills up to date on it and understanding the concept of it as a finance person or accountant, it's important to have that information.
Do we have any more questions? You all can just write it down on the Q&A or in the chat. Janak, I think you've raised your hand. I would request if you could write down your question. There's one more question, Fadi. Do you think doing data analytics, data scientist course or something like that will help our career advancement as CAs?
Definitely it will. Definitely it will. Understanding accounting now, it's all about data. It's not about, first of all, you need to have the basics, understand the standards, but it is no longer that you're going to be doing the debits and the credits. That's all automated. Producing the income statement, the balance sheet, the statement of cash flow, that's all data entered in the system. So understanding data and how to manipulate data and how to use data to come up with a decision is always beneficial. This is analytical thinking. For sure, it's very helpful.
Do we have more questions? I think, Fadi, if we can throw some light on data analytics and CPA as a career advancement for them, because altogether the questions is around the advancement of CPA and blockchain technology and data analysis. So if we can,
but we still don't have. I know that the exam is changing in 2024. They still have the blueprint. We still don't have enough details. But what we know that as of 2024, one of the parts of the exam is going to be called the BAR, which is business analysis, okay, and reporting. And that part is going to have data analytics in it. But what's going to be tested on data analytics and where it is as we speak, this is what they're working on. So we only have the blueprint. We don't have the final version, but data analytics is data analytics. When you look at a set of data, income statement, data, assets, your inventory, this is all data for you. How you interpret that data and how you analyze it, that's the question mark. And what you need to look at and how you compare that data to other industries, how you compare it to previous, how you compare it to the industry standards, how you compare it to your competitors. When we talk about data analytics, I'm talking having all that information, categorizing that information in the best way, and to have the best comparative according to the industry. There's no set standard, and how you make decisions based on that. So it requires several different skills, and you can learn it. There are courses, there are webinars about it. I mean, if you look at all those, we talk about data analytics, and I'm talking it in the content of accounting and finance. But this is something not new. It's just, it's going to be, because the data is becoming more and more and more, and because the data now is stored on smart systems, now you have the capability to make use of that data in a more efficient. It's not something new. It is more and more we're going in that direction, but it's not something new. All your softwares that you are using, all the social media you're using, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, it's all algorithms and data. So they're looking at your data and your touch points, and they're looking at all that data, and they're trying to come up with something, a plan to monetize that data and make money out of you. Same thing in the same concept. When you look at the finance data and accounting data of a corporates, you should be able to have all those algorithms and all those data compiled, and out of that data, how we can reduce costs, how we can increase revenue, where are the risk factors. This is it's all about. It's not new, but you need to start getting and learning about that and develop those skills to be able to interpret such type of data. But it's not as something out of the blue just came. It existed hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It's just is becoming more and more complex. We used to learn about, for example, data analytics, like the quick ratio, or we look at the accounts receivables outstanding. These are basic, what is the cross margin? These are basic analytics that we produce and we compare them. But now we have a lot more data to add to this and be able to make decisions on the go. It's all about it. It's not a more restricted to finance. It's an integration with everything.
Can you give some example of cloud computing?
I mean, cloud computing is everything, any software that is on the cloud that people from different parts of the world can collaborate on it is called cloud computing. So any software, be it QuickBooks, simple one, to any complex SaaS system like Salesforce or like Oracle financial systems that is on a cloud, that people from different parts of the world can enter data in a real time, in a secure, and can collaborate. This is called cloud computing. And most of the softwares now are moving into cloud computing. There's no more a server sitting in your, unless it's a very highly sensitive government entities, but most of the servers now are on the cloud. It's not anymore, it's safer to have it on the cloud. So any software that's on the cloud that allows for collaboration and reporting is called cloud computing.
So we have Amir, who's given us an idea about record to report. Record to report is a finance and accounting management process that involves collecting, processing, and presenting accurate financial data. Currently, many of the organization getting work from US client. So he wants to know that can we get record to report work from outside India?
I'm sure you can, It's already happening. I mean, Genpact, Infosys, all what they do with those reporting and processes. I know Deloitte in Delhi, they have 3,000 employees. What they do is tax returns for the US. So I'm sure you can, and there's a lot of companies in India doing that already. It's not something new, where they are outsourcing clients from the US, where the business processing and reporting is happening in India. And you have the multinational, Genpact, Infosys, and many others. It's already happening.
How do you envisage the verification process for confidence in the financial statement?
How do you?
Envisage the verification process for confidence in the financial statement.
Well, how do you envisage the verification process? Verification of what? I mean, there is the confidence level is based on a complete audit and a complete evaluation of internal controls, doing the whole thing, taking samples, looking at the processes, looking at division of duties, looking at what internal controls, and testing those controls and assessing the risk. And based on that, it's a whole process. This is the whole audit, is to get a report, clean report, to gain the confidence of the stakeholders to trust those numbers. It's not a verification process, one process. It's a complete audit, line by line item of each item on the balance sheet and the income statements. You verify the inventory, you verify the assets, liabilities, you do external party verification, you do sampling testing. That's a whole audit to get the confidence level to be able to produce a clean audit report. It's not a one-step process. It's a whole year-round process where auditors are with internal audit departments. They work on that.
So Srinivas has an extension to his question. But with all this fast-moving development digitally, how do you see this process going forward in future?
It's gonna be all automated. It's gonna be digital. It's just gonna, what I see is that it's gonna be more efficient, and it's gonna be more IT and more authorization. I'll give you just a simple example. Very simple. For example, assets. Somebody wants to access the assets. There will be more authorization to access those assets. And if they want to transact on those assets, I'm talking in the virtual world, there's going to be two-step verification. There's going to be those smart technologies to put more securities about those transactions, be it a face detection technology they might be using, eye detection. It's just we're going to be using more smart technologies, like airports in some parts of the world. You used to go through the immigration. The immigration have a process. You go to the immigration officer when you land in the airport. They take your passport. They look at your passport. They look at you. They ask you questions: why you're coming here? What's the objective of your visit? And if the immigration officer feels that you're safe to enter the country, they will give you the stamp and you walk in. Now it's all automated. Now all the information you apply on the visa online, they will have their own metrics, which airline is he taking from, which country he's coming, what's their nationality, what's the average age group. They look at all that data and they put a profile if you're high risk or not. And then if you're not a high risk, you arrive to the airport, you have those cameras, smart gates. We have it in Dubai, you have it in the US, many airports. They use face detection. It matches according to your records, and the door opens and you just move in. And if your data in their records, your high profile, your risky profile, the door will not open, and they take you to an immigration officer, and that officer will talk to you. So these are the smart technologies I'm referring to. Even in accounting, it's going to be applied. So the process is going to be more sophisticated, and it's going to be more complex, and it's going to be more secure if it's done in the right way.
Do we have more questions?
Any more questions?
Guys, do we have any more questions, that we can answer?
No?
There's one question from Srinivasan. What if the bank accounts crash?
Eventually they will crash. The reality. The banking sector is changing as well. So now the banking are thinking of, there are virtual banks now. You know that in Europe it exists, where they don't have any physical teller machine you go to, and it's a digital bank. You can take a loan, and you can open an account, you can transfer and make pay money all digitally. It's not anymore a physical bank the way we used to. So the trend is going to go in that direction. There are a lot of apps now, they act as, if you look at PayPal, for example, PayPal is a payment gateway app that you use to buy things, but you can store money in it, you can save money. You have something in Europe, it's a revolt. So the banking as well is going to be digitized. Now, when it comes to the accounts and the currency, there's always a question mark about it. Some of the governments, they want to adopt digital currency that is controlled by the central bank. There's a discussion still about it. Some of the world is trying to avoid that because it gives you, when you use a blockchain like the Bitcoin and everything, that nobody has control over that. So that's all up in the air, but that's all changing. So yes, currencies can crash, banks can crash. There's more compliance now on the banks. Historically, if you had a lot of money, you go and open a bank, the bank manager will come and meet you and greet you, and they open all the services. Now you go with a lot of money in the bank, the first thing they ask you is, from where you're getting that money? And we need to know the sources. So now they do more assessment of the person. It's not like more compliance, because one mistake now can close the bank. So the more it's becoming more and more compliant, the banking is becoming more restrictive. Transfer of money is becoming more restrictive. So that's why they're moving into that technology. So all the banks, and not only the banks, governments are as well, are exposed into their money devaluating or crashing. That can happen based on politics, based on the economy. The other thing I want to mention is that one of the reasons why government will encourage cryptocurrency or digital currency is for their own benefit, because if it's under the control of the central bank, then they probably can make more controls, and they, from the tax wise, they can control more income for the government. I'll give you just a very quick example before we end this, is that I'll give you an example in Egypt. In Egypt, they had a problem, the government had a problem with small businesses, like a small hair salon or a small hair taxi driver. Those are people who are running a business, they're making money, but they're not paying taxes, and the government does not have a way to know what is the revenue, how many people walked into the hair salon and paid money, and how much that hair salon made profit at the end of the year to pay the taxes. So now they introduced a digital, not currency, but digital payment. They said the law stipulates now any hair salon in Egypt, you're not allowed to take money in cash. And if you take money in cash and you're caught, your business will be shut down immediately because that's a violation of the law. The only way you can receive money for that service is through an app that the government put out. This way they can control now how much money is that particular hair salon is getting, and then they can tax them. So when we talk about cryptocurrency, and somehow it's going to move in that direction, but it's not the cryptocurrency that we think of like the banking system. Like currently I would say the Bitcoin, where there's no government regulation around it, and there's no authority on it. It's just the blockchain technology. It is the end user who control the security around it. While if the government get into this and it's under the control of the central bank, it gives more control to the government. It makes it more efficient, and that could be a threat on the banks as well. So because the banks, what's their job now? If we use the bank, is to save our money in the bank, for the bank to transact on our behalf, to send and receive money. And if we need the finance, the bank will give us a finance. So if we're moving into micro loans, and now I can transact via cryptocurrency controlled by the central bank, regulated through an app, why would I need a bank anymore? So the banks are facing a lot of challenges as well.
Okay, we'll take last two questions. Harshal has a question that will we be sharing the PPT? Yes, Harshal will share the PPT. It will be available on your digital learning platform. And Amir has a question, will AI lead to unemployment for accountants?
No, AI will not lead. Technology will increase the demand for accountants, but the skills level will change and the job of an accountant will change. So the job of the accounting and the finance person will do a more rewarding, higher value added work that benefits the corporate, and it will eliminate manual work, and the work will be between humans and those AI systems. So it will not replace the human beings. It will work with the human beings. It would replace administrative tasks, repetitive tasks. So the notion of digitization that it will take away jobs is not proper. And we've seen it in the fourth industrial revolution. I'm seeing it now in the US. The employment rate in the US is very high. I mean, you're looking for a job, the next day you can find a job. Companies are facing issues of recruitment. They need jobs, and people are very selective. Why? Because of the technology. Those technology are requiring a new set of skills. It's opening doors, it's opening opportunities. So don't look at it as a threat.
Fadi, I think we've done with the question answer round. So thank you so much for the idea that you've shared on the future of finance. I would request Mr. Vivek Lada to take it over. I think Mr. Vivek is facing some issue to join back again. So I would just like to conclude today's session. Thank you so much, Fadi, for being an amazing host and guide and mentor to all the ICI WRC branch. And on behalf of the branch, also I would like to thank you for giving them an insight. And we're looking forward to more interaction with you in the near future. Uh, and I'm sure that to all the WRC members, we'll be putting up this PPT for your reference on the digital platform. So if you guys have any more questions, you can always feel free to reach back to us. Fadi is an amazing guide. He's always up for, sessions. And, if you want any more information, you can always, reach out to Subhash. He can reach out to me for more future sessions. Thank you so much, Fadi.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you very much.